That's podcasting!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We've reached episode 768. This is being recorded on April 10, 2024. I am Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Spruenberg, and 768. That reminds me of a resolution I knew once.
768 reminds me of someone with dyscalculia. And I'm Kent Burgess.
You can support PC Perspective and everything we do at patreon.com/PCPer. And we need a hero.
We do.
A hero of the month. And we'll celebrate you next week. It could be you.
Could be
Begging
you. Could be you.
over. Let's move to the Josh segment. Is this a food segment? Is it a slice of life?
So
both.
Okay, let's go back to. It's interesting that you mentioned the "We Need a Hero, I Need a Hero" song, but wasn't that the same artist who did "Total Eclipse of the Heart"? Which, Monday was a big deal.
Why do your eyes hurt?
Bonnie Tyler.
Correct.
Sure,
Yes.
go Bonnie. Is she even still alive?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
It was just Dusty
Probably on tour
Springfield
soon.
who died. I don't know.
True.
They all have the same hair. But anyhow, there was no burger special. No burger special. None. Well, I mean, there was. But it's the same one I've had multiple times. The March Madness with the, Scottish ale based mustard. And, while that was really good, I just couldn't do it a third time in a month. It just, couldn't. So I got the Big Al's chili dog. And that's the Big Al chili dog right there with a humongous amount of tots. So the chili dog has a robust and somewhat spicy red chili covered with cheddar cheese, queso, and then a generous topping of bacon bits, fried bacon bits, and a big quarter-pound hot dog underneath all that. And the bun was interesting too. Well, not just your regular, baseball stadium type buns. It was robust. It was thick. It was from a home bakery here in town. It was good. It was incredibly filling, especially with the perfectly done tots. My son may have been in charge of the tots. Way to get a job, kid.
Our first news story of the week, of course, comes from The Verge. Well, who else do we source? And this has become mainstream enough that even Verge has a story about Intel's game crashing on 13th and 14th gen Core i9 processors. It's getting worse. It's still Unreal Engine. That was, I think, the original report. But there was something about like 100 processors a day being returned in South Korea, I think. Intel has a statement. Quote, Intel is aware of problems that occur when executing certain tasks on 13th and 14th generation Core processors for desktop PCs and is analyzing them with major affiliates, end quote. That's a statement to ZDNet Korea. Yeah. And then Power GPU, I think they were the ones who were out there educating people about the 12-volt high-power connector when that was first starting to melt 4090s. They're explaining that you can fix your 13th and 14th gen Core i9 by reducing its performance, which is, always what you want to hear. Some motherboard vendors are having people go in and set the fail-safe in the BIOS.
We're beta testing for Intel.
I think what we're doing is discovering that they've found the limit. Like the 12th gen was kind of insane, and then the 13th gen was really nuts, and the 14th gen is just overclocked.
Ludicrous?
13th
They've
gen.
gone plaid.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Razer 2048. Does more voltage help with the stability issue?
You should find out.
I don't think you want to do any more voltage or frequency.
Let's have a 400 watt CPU.
I think they found the limit of 10 nanometer plus, and it was like 2 generations ago. So maybe the last great Intel i9 on desktop was the 12900KS.
I mean, it's the same thing as the Pentium 3 1133. There are just some workloads that it can't handle. They pushed it to the absolute ragged edge, and they've relied on a lot of the internal circuitry. I hate to say circuitry, but sensors, voltage control, all that stuff, thinking that they can push up to this level, and that level in certain workloads is just too much. So yeah, you have to turn your power states down to a max of 225 watts, and it should run fine. But you have cut back your performance by a not insignificant amount, but it's going to be less heat, a little less performance, a little less noise from your computer. But yeah,
a little less crashing.
A little less satisfaction.
Yeah. We can't get none.
Until I get my satisfaction. And so if you touch me.
So if what you're saying is if we actually run our Intel processors at the 253 watt theoretical PL2 limit and run them at 125 watts after 56 seconds, and don't go into the 1.6 to 1.7 volt range to push cores up to 6 gigahertz under certain workloads, that we might...
Then you'll have a 1200 KS.
Oh, okay. So we were worried about this, the longevity of these things.
Bring back Tau.
He's smiling because he's got his D-lidded and it's on liquid nitrogen or something, so he's fine. But.
No, just Mayhem's coolant.
Okay, but you're underwater with a D-lidded CPU.
Yes.
Okay. What's the quality of your CPU, by the way? What's the voltage you have to push to run, say, 6 gigahertz on 2 cores?
So the thing is about the Z690, Z790, and all of the power level limit. It's really complicated how to go into overclocking these, and there's a lot of debate in the overclocking community about should you use global voltage or should you use true V-core voltage, which are two different options. And I've tried a variety of things. The best balance of performance and temperatures I've found on my particular sample is the voltage is set at 1.445, but it's only set at a power level limit of level 5. So under load, the voltage actually V-droops down to about 1.28, and that's at 5.8 all core.
Wow.
And it maxes out at 325 watts. And I have actually got an overclock that's in my BIOS that is still uses a different method. With it, I can actually push 2 cores to 6.2, but it's still 5.8 all cores. It goes up to 350 watts, but there's actually just no additional performance except in loads that will only utilize 2 cores.
Weird.
So, yeah.
So not worth the extra heat dissipation.
No. I've really settled on a one overclock that's 6.1 up to 4 cores, and then 5.8 all 8 of the performance cores, 4.5 on the E cores.
I think it's fair to assume that the people who are having these issues and having to return these CPUs or make warranty claims they're probably running with motherboard default settings of 4,000 plus watts, and total insanity on the voltage, and they're also not running custom cooling. Is my assumption.
I mean, all of these, the high end, the 900s. I've messed around with a couple of 12600Ks, and I'm a big fan of that processor because you can actually just overclock the crap out of it, and it never draws a huge amount of power. You can push it up to 5.2 gigahertz, and it's a great gaming CPU, and with a good air cooler, you can still manage it at that. But all the 900 series CPUs, they're so hard to manage the heat they put out. And I mentioned this before. I also think that there's a lot of people that are getting these 900 series CPUs, and they're looking at the overclocking on them the way you used to overclock. And you can't look at any of the LGA 1700 processors. You can't look at the overclocking them the same way. You can't just punch in a voltage number and punch in a multiplier. Oh, well, I mean, you can. It's just not going to work very well. You really have to go in depth. There's a YouTuber, Scatterbencher. He actually just recently was part of a team that set a world record with the 14900KS at over 9 gigahertz. But he does some fantastic videos, not just about Intel overclocking, but I mean like 50-minute videos about overclocking, whatever. And they're really informative. I've been overclocking for years and years, and I learned a ton from him because even when I got my 12900KS, I approached it like a lot of people did. I started just, punching in a voltage and adjusting the multipliers, and I wasn't stable, and it took me a long time to figure it out, and he was a big help.
Yeah, overclocking
sounds complicated.
Is kind of dead.
Yeah.
It is.
Complicated.
You can do it, but it's silly, and there's so many levers to pull. And these guys who do the liquid nitrogen, once you get this silicon under minus 40 Celsius / Fahrenheit, which is correct because they're the same. The silicon starts to change its physical characteristics. It doesn't quite become a superconductor, but it eases off on a lot of issues that it has, and so you can really pump them up there if you have the patience and the time and the materials. But for people like me, Bront, Jeremy, it's just so pointless to try to overclock anything. It just doesn't work anymore.
Young man's game.
The gains are
the young person's game.
Yeah.
Well, the gains in power draw are there, Josh. I don't know what you're talking about.
True.
I see a direct correlation between my overclocking and power draw. It's just like it's a 1-to-1.
So, and this is the thing I didn't mention. The BIOS setting that I'm running at is default, which is, like I said, 6.1, 4 cores, 5.8 all core. It actually is undervolted from the stock BIOS if you just unlock the limits and leave everything at auto. So I'm actually
That's smart.
Yes, I'm actually running lower voltage and higher clocks.
I think that
That's
you
a nice
have a good
built-in
sample.
fail-safe for someone that's like, I'm cranking her to 11, so it sort of at least it dumbs down the voltage a bit.
Yeah, because when Intel gets those off the line and they test them, they basically say, okay, how can we achieve nearly 95 to 100% of the stuff that we put out to hit these levels? And they test a bunch of them. Some you don't have to put as much voltage on. Others you got to do the full amount. And to get all of them to run that, You have to do the full amount. So yeah, underclocking is not underclocking, but undervolting is definitely a thing. If you've got quality silicon, it will be better because you're not applying so much power and heat does not increase to the same degree, no pun intended. And so of course the silicon reacts better and can go faster. It's paradoxical, but it works.
All right, let's move past this discussion of Intel and their crazy power draw and talk about Intel's new processor that pulls 900 watts. It's the Gaudi 3 with a.
Are you saying that it has Gaudi power consumption?
It does. Is it Gaudi or Gaudi?
It does.
It's
So Gaudi is the person. Gaudi is how gross it is.
Flamboyant.
Look at this.
Bling.
900 watts for the Gaudi 3. Oh, I see. The Gaudi 2 is 600 watts. Wait, this is a 5 nanometer part that's 900 watts?
It's a huge die, and you have to have water cooling to hit that 900 watts.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I also
and when
like
you hit 900 watts, it swells up to 7 nanometer.
Look at Anontek's transistor count. 2 times a lot.
Yeah, we don't know because
And
it's
there's
like
question marks to the other ones. Like they're not getting specific details. I saw Ian was tweeting about this. He didn't have particulars for this stuff yet, but
I mean, you can count them. You can count some of them right there. There are 2 main monolithic dies in the middle, and then spacers, and then 8 stacks of HBM. I mean, it's just it's nuts. And go ahead.
The networking on this makes 10 gigabit look like poor man's sneaker net. By the way, I happened to notice that on the chart.
Yeah, Ethernet is really turned out to be the fabric of the future that was developed in the past. They've really
wow, that was good.
Extended.
Write that down. Let's see.
That
Xerox.
no, I mean they've
extended
the capabilities. Even Jim Keller was talking about that today. How that is just the de facto default standard of interconnect for a lot of these distributed computings and whatnot. I mean, yeah, we got NVLink and other options, but a lot of it is still just based on Ethernet. Weird, huh?
The OSI stack forever.
Mm-hmm.
Behold its greatness.
Look at all that SRAM in there.
That's all 48 megs of SRAM.
No, I think that's a $sign, not an S.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's going to get a lot more expensive now, I think.
I mean, these things are going to be. I mean, if Intel wants to get into the market with these, and if it's got the performance that they're looking at, which is 1.5 to 1.8 that of the H100 from NVIDIA, they're gonna undercut those dramatically because there's still the software issue where everybody wants to run the CUDA framework because they're familiar with it, but PyTorch and all these other guys are moving beyond CUDA to allow other manufacturers to really flex their muscles here. But they're looking at 1.5 to 1.7 to 2x performance of H100 in a lot of these more common workloads. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Intel and AMD can start chewing away some of that market share. But something else we kind of have to think of is that NVIDIA probably isn't so much losing market share. They're probably supply constrained versus the demand. So their market share may go down, but I'm pretty sure that the amount of money they make quarter by quarter by quarter for the next couple of years is going to continue to go up just because they can't produce enough of what is demanded. And it's going to be interesting to see how AMD and Intel send their software people after this. I mean, we got AMD's ROCm. Intel is working with a bunch of other industry standards to try to get their stuff in. And, Gaudi 1 and Gaudi 2 have kind of gotten their foot in the door. And this number 3 looks like it's going to be a pretty significant jump from what they've been doing. So MI300 X and A, Gaudi, H100, H200. There's going to be a lot of interesting stuff in the AR market that people like you and I will never see. We will never touch this hardware unless we go to school, and that school was bequeathed hardware from these manufacturers, and we can actually physically go up and touch them. Yeah. But can it play Crysis? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it probably could.
Probably, software. But it can certainly whip
not
the
well.
out.
Yeah, there would be no optimized driver for it, but you could train it. You could train it to play Crysis 1.7 times faster than an H100. I think that's what this chart's all about, is the Crysis training time. After all that data center stuff, let's have some uplifting desktop news. This is from Tom's Hardware. AMD Zen 5 Ryzen 9000 series looms. Latest chipset drivers add support. You know it's coming. They like to release Ryzen processors in the summer, right? So maybe it'll be next month.
I don't know. Will it?
I don't know. June?
It may be.
July?
I think it actually may be.
A pun because of the month called May. That's
May. Now you're going to get that not Justin guy, but
Justin Timberlake.
One? Yeah. It's going to be May.
Yep.
I think it's going to be late July, in August.
Really? Okay.
Because we really have not seen a whole lot. And we certainly have not seen any leaks of the 890 series or 870 series motherboards. I mean, we know they exist, but there's been nothing.
How do you know they exist if there have been no leaks?
Hush you.
You know, there's a lady who's sure that all that glitters is gold.
Wait, is her name Moore's Law is Dead?
Starway.
Oh.
I'm just saying, like, is this the source? Because I don't follow MLID,
sure.
And I haven't seen, like, the videocards.com pictures of upcoming motherboards yet, so.
Last gen, they went from 3000 series CPUs to the 5000 series, but they kept the X570 and B550 motherboards.
Yeah.
I mean, some new versions came out, but they were still the same chipsets. So are we getting new chipsets, or are they just going to...
That's the rumor, that there are enough issues with the 670 in terms of power draw and complexity of motherboards that we have obviously seen.
What are you talking about? Sebastian loves his.
Yeah. Hey, I got this one behind me working finally. It took
think about how
the RAM and updating the BIOS, but yeah.
The 370 was surpassed by the 470.
Yeah.
Which actually turned out to be a super chipset.
Yep.
So do you think gamers are going to be fine with a new chipset for the new processors, and they'll be okay with AMD sort of fulfilling the promise of, no, you buy one of our sockets and you get to keep that for generation after generation, except not really, because X670E sucked and we need to move on to X900 already? Come on. It's still AM5, I guess.
I think there was always an implicit
AM5.
Look, if I bought an X370 board back in the day, I could be running current AM4 stuff on it 3 generations later.
Yeah. You could do 370 and run the latest processors. But you can't go backwards with the BIOS, and you've got to have the correct BIOS, and you've got to have the correct CPU to flash the correct BIOS.
Yes.
I mean, it's a pain in the ass, but you can do it.
You can do it. I don't want to be told that I spent $600 on some X670 board, and then I want to get the new processor when it comes out, and they're like, sorry, we need you to buy a new motherboard with a new chipset.
You don't need to buy.
I think it'll be more like
that's very Intel.
You can still use that 670 if you want to.
Okay, so as long as there's
you might enjoy a new
that
board
makes it compatible.
Yeah,
it's
like going from the AMD 880 FX chipset to the 980X chipset. It was a small jump. Was it 970? No, it's 980, 990, 990 FX.
It was a while ago.
Too many. Yeah, it's been 14 years since those were introduced. Yeah. But yeah, Same kind of dang thing. I mean, it's going to be an improvement, it looks like, with the 870X. But yeah, your 670 and 650 are going to be working perfectly fine with the new series.
I see.
Why not two chipsets at once? Here you go.
Let's just forget AM5.
February was at least 7 weeks ago. Who remembers that?
Let's
besides Al Bundy.
AM4. Well, a little bit, because we're talking about the 5700G versus the new AM5 APUs, 8700G, 8600G in 17 games. FPS review, probably Brent Justice, and yep. And
I'm going to give you points for that one.
Whoa, 9.7.
Oh, hell yeah.
Overall score.
I mean, they were hitting 64 frames on ultra quality on F1 2022.
That's not a very challenging game, but okay.
But still, that's not too bad.
Cyberpunk 2077, actually, they got over 60 frames a second on the 8700G with FSR.
This is 1080 low, right? Oh, with FSR.
It is 1080.
Okay.
1080
well, it's all 1080, but they try high. And hey, Creed Mirage, playable at high quality.
I guess, yeah, 42 is playable.
No, FSR. Oh, yes, I know you're using FSR at 1080, but you're also playing on an 8700G.
I would go FSR performance to get over 60 if it was me. Because you can go, I mean, if it's high quality already with the detail settings, I would maybe just bump that down to medium quality with FSR on quality. I don't know.
Well, they did. It worked pretty well.
It's an impressive option with FSR now, so...
Yeah, FSR on an integrated really looks nifty. There you go. You're playing Cyberpunk on an integrated GPU.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that. Look at the 5700G.
Yeah.
Even with FSR, you're not hitting 30.
What kind of a life is that? Like you're playing Cyberpunk 2077 on a low preset with resolution scaling to hit 27 frames per second. The new APUs are a huge improvement. The problem is the platform, because who on earth is going to buy an AM5 board in DDR5 to play games on an integrated GPU? You would save your money and buy an AM4 board and a low-end GPU, right?
You know what P.T. Barnum said?
Yeah.
They're selling you on a promise. Selling hard.
And not a promissory note.
Now, if only they would have some, like, remember back in the was it the 870G, one of the first AMD integrated graphics that featured Radeon, that they had that sideband memory attached on the motherboard, and it really improved performance. They got to do that again. Let's increase the prices of motherboards with stuff that you won't use unless you're like 5%.
So, the thing that gets me about this is the 8700G is $330. You can get, if you've got an existing AM4 platform, you can get a 5700X3D for $249 and an Intel A3 Arc A380 for $110, and it will just literally stomp that 8700G.
This is
for $30 more.
Thank you, Kent, because this is absolutely the point. It's people, I guess, tend to forget that Intel still makes these low-end graphics cards that are way better than any integrated GPUs out there, and they're not expensive. It's like the old 1050 or the 750 Ti kind of price, and it's the same kind of drop it in, and you get way better performance than integrated. And if you're putting together a system, you don't even need current gen stuff. The processor performance of one of these APUs is not all that great. It's okay, especially now that they fixed the ST APM thing. Like they actually don't throttle instantly anymore.
Oh, yeah.
The skin temperature.
Stomp.
Yeah. So they fixed that. There's BIOS updates out there for everything to fix that problem. But still, you wouldn't buy this for the CPU necessarily because there are better options from AMD. And you wouldn't buy it for the GPU necessarily because you can put together a better system with like an ARC, like you just mentioned. So the it's like special use cases where you need a all-in-one solution. You're putting together some really small box, and it needs
exactly
a single low-profile cooler.
Kind of like a Nook.
Yeah. Like that. Like an integrated
But that's
solution.
what got me excited about it. You need a system the size of a paperback book or smaller. They're getting a lot better than they used to be.
Yes. It's exciting.
Because I do fully agree that, regardless of whether you're looking at Intel's new spiffy iGPUs or AMD's, the fact that you can get an ARC for, I think in Canada, it's just under $200, or down in the States, about 130, 140, and it blows everything away at that price level. Yes, you've bought an Intel GPU, get over it. They're worth it for what certain niche things, and we'll see what next generation brings, because I think that they're going to do it.
Somebody points out that low-end GPU is sub 8 gigabytes of RAM, and yes, the A380 is only 6. I don't think that the VRAM is your bottleneck on an 8700G. I think it's the extremely low-performance GPU cores that are going to be the bottleneck. Well, besides that, you're dealing with
memory
system
bandwidth
RAM.
is going to suck.
Yeah.
Because you're sharing it with the CPU. Do you remember
Josh,
the Onion Plus and those other kind of sub buses internally to the chip? I mean, it's just, you're not going to have full access to the full, CPU memory.
Well, Josh, don't you know that you're supposed to pair it with 6400 CL32 memory? Your, budget all-in-one solution.
It's the only way to fly.
That's what AMD sent with the processor.
Yeah.
That's actually the memory that's in this system right here is the AMD provided 6400 CL32 kit that you're going to pair with your 8600G. So, obviously.
Perfect. Not a waste of any dollars.
And they said that they really wanted us testing with 6400 too, because they said that, I'm like, what? I thought 6000 was the sweet spot, but apparently the benefits for the graphics tests were enough. They weren't as worried about the CPU performance. They just wanted you to run faster memory.
Fair.
You can never have fast enough memory with an APU.
Memory.
Okay, next news story, PCIe 6.0. It's out of date. It's old hat. Obviously, everybody's on a PCI Gen 5 SSD now, right?
Of course.
Wait a minute. If we aren't even on PCIe Gen 5 GPUs and storage, this must be a data center thing or something.
Remember how you were talking about how impressive Gaudi's networking was? That's what this is for.
So this is Gen 7.
Because a PCI 6.0, 6.0 or 16X slot only offers a mere 800 gigabits a second. Like, that's just not enough anymore for what people are doing. So the theoretical bandwidth on a PCI 7.0 16 bias slot is twice that. So 1.6 terabits a second. That's almost infinity fabric. And that's definitely what it's going to be for, because I'm sorry to say that your GPU, it really doesn't care past PCI 3.0. You might be able to find a couple that are, but most
How
of
dare
it,
you.
I think it is.
You're wasting lanes.
Infinity fabric.
Well, this is the theoretical by directional. We'll see what they actually get with overhead and everything, but it could be. It could be faster than Interconnect. And it's wild because that's what it's for. Is giant clusters of computers needing to talk to each other so that you can draw pictures with extra fingers and such.
I think it's for extracting more money from people just to have a bigger number on their PCIe interface.
Well, that too.
I think it's extracting more money from consumers when, to meet the PCIe 7 requirement, the boards get $200 more expensive just because of the additional copper and more layers. And
So what it really is...
and you thought
is PayPal wants to converge all of their transactions into one server rack located in Poughkeepsie, New York. And that's how they get there.
Interesting story. PayPal was once going to be X.com because a young man named Elon Musk was involved. Yeah, once the U was kicked out, it was PayPal. And, the PayPal we know and love to this very day.
Well, it was a stupider
X,
name before he bought it, too.
He did keep the X. He's like, yeah, well, I'm taking the X with me.
I'm taking it with me.
And the X is going to give it to you now via
going to give it to you?
Social
We
media.
spent a lot of time listening to that Kiss song from the 1980s. Let's put the X in social media companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's exactly
about that song.
Exactly,
they were way
what they
ahead
said.
Of their time.
Yep,
They were forward thinking.
Yeah, really, they were.
And they sold their entire library for $300 million. So
$300 million.
Gene Simmons and his boys are doing well in their retirement.
That's nice.
Yes, they will not be going on tour again because they won't need to.
No,
just to stay vaguely on topic, I liked Razor's 2048's question in the chat, which was, why is it taking so long for companies to release PCIe 7.0 SSDs? What's wrong?
I know.
Well, CES will be the year of the PCIe 6.0 SSD, right? Next year.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe we'll see those.
Noctua will be doing the coolers.
I was just thinking that.
Okay, here's an answer for you. They don't want to release a 35-watt M.2 NVMe drive.
Put it on a card. Gamers have been conditioned to accept these dual or triple or quadruple slot monstrosities that take 600 watts. And that's like an ideal situation. Somebody gives you a 4090, you're going to find room for it in your case.
Yeah.
Well, what if somebody gave you a Gen 6 drive that was a double slot card with 2 huge fans on it that takes a PCIe 8-pin for power? I don't think you're going to turn it down.
Yes.
Oh, 8-pin, 12-volt high power. Come on.
Well, it's not an NVIDIA product, but yeah, I guess actually no. There was a 4060 with an M.2 slot on it from Asus, so it could be. Yeah. That's really the solution. Integrate the M.2 slots into those by 8 GPUs.
Yeah, I actually have a prototype cooler for a PCI Gen 7 M.2 drive here.
Yep.
I would proudly install that.
The power draw is scarily similar, by the way.
Oh, bringing us back down to earth, Rurudo says you need 2 of those drives to get the full transfer rates. Well, yeah. That's the problem. Let's see, my home internet is a gigabit. I'm lucky enough to have fiber. It's 1 gigabit though, and that's my home network.
So the best part about the M.2 actual physical interface is that eventually you're going to get the power up there that those traces can't handle it, and you're either going to melt them or you're going to jump traces with the power. So
external power connectors.
If you like welding SSDs to your motherboard, this is an excellent idea.
You know the meme about putting a SATA connector, like you put your M.2 drive into a SATA connector? There's going to be a SATA connector on the end of the M.2 drive just for power delivery.
Yeah.
It's the future.
That's terrifying, but possibly accurate.
Anyway.
GPUs had to do it too. Look, we went from AGP to AGP Pro because we needed more power delivery for AGP. Then everything just had a 4-pin Molex connector on it, which morphed into that 6-pin PCI Express power connector. And then away we go. Now here we are in the world of 12-volt high power. So how would storage be any different? Obviously, it's going to get faster, more power hungry. It's going to have an unlocked multiplier. It's going to have like a 4,095 watt limit in the BIOS, running at 1.7 volts.
Traces and connectors are weak sauce.
Okay. That's why you need those power connectors.
Yes, that's right.
What we really need is Lucid Logic to come around and make a RAID controller with totally different sized memory modules and specs. So,
you mean the Fabless Semiconductor Company?
Yeah.
One-time sponsor of the PC Perspective podcast.
True.
Somehow they went bankrupt, or just the product failed. I don't think we had anything to do with it, though. I mean,
no.
Thousands of people probably went out.
They had a nice record player in their suite, though.
Talked about it.
Hey, Asus had they had a motherboard, sported it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's move on.
Roku's new HDMI technology could show ads when you pause your game, just right over your HDMI. You know, it doesn't matter if you're watching.
Roku is really trying to win hearts and minds right now, aren't they?
Well, that's what you're getting those cheap panels into your home because they're subsidized. So it's just a matter of time before they started being more invasive, right?
I thought it was just because it was a cheap panel.
No. I'm sorry. You weren't paying $200 for that TV. You were paying $400, but $200 was subsidized by Pizza Hut and Walmart and Disney Plus.
And Microsoft.
Ford.
So their patent is actually for injecting ads into third-party content, like an Xbox game or something else being fed into an HDMI port that the Roku is running on. The Roku kind of app or system or embedded device is running on the TV itself. But if the feed is coming in from an external source, like an Xbox, their patent is on, we're going to overlay something on your external input. An ad. They have a patent on this. Or I don't know if it's granted, but perhaps it has. But yeah, when you've paused your content feed from game, or say that you've gone to the fridge to grab a drink during the pause moments, they'll detect that, throw an ad up. Maybe you've paused some feed that you're getting from your Xbox or something. They'll throw an ad up. They have a patent on this. Thanks, Roku.
So, Roku used to be this wonderful alternative to like the Apple TV experience.
Yeah.
The Roku streaming, there was inexpensive, good quality. The remote had clever
Apple
features like a
shot
built-in
themselves in
headphone
the
jack.
foot, and then they got better. And now it's Google. It's all Chromecast.
It's whatever's cheap. Amazon Fire. $20. Black Friday.
Look, basically, the embedded players in a TV that when you're buying it, they are subsidizing part of your purchase. So you owe them. You owe them. Think of it as
I know. I gave them money.
You didn't give them enough.
You owe it to yourself if you watch
You owe them
TV.
your time.
Hey, you know what?
You know what?
In theory, and we have seen this, if you get a budget high quality HDMI cable, that could, in fact, provide advertisement for you by itself.
Absolutely.
We've seen the controllers being built into these cables. It's going to happen.
He is not wrong at all.
See, that's what consumer electronics control really means. It's going to control our consumer electronics by displaying
as was recently
ads.
pointed out, we need to get used to the fact that buying something doesn't mean we own it.
Ouch. But true.
You need to get comfortable
unless you pay a premium.
What is the premium? At what point is it that they cut off
That's the monthly subscription?
It will no longer be labeled premium. It's simply called ad-free.
I see. And for the ad-free experience.
Really, I don't know. HDR 4K Blu-ray discs are pretty premium, and
and they're also pretty unpopular. So
yeah,
but they don't play ads, though, do they?
There's a reason why I bought a PC case with 5 1/4-inch drives.
Yeah.
I'm a little jealous, Josh. Can't inject ads onto them, can you?
Nope.
Just don't go online with your TV. My TV is happily offline. Unfortunately,
we're going to talk about this.
We're going to talk about this into it. So then that's a whole different thing.
We are.
Okay.
We're going to talk about this.
Let's go to our next uplifting story. A Pi 5 PC or a no-name Amazon mini desktop. Who wins? Who did this testing?
You'll be surprised to find out. Tune in at 11.
I like how I said a cheap Pi 5 PC. Does that mean it's the Pi 5 without 8 gigabytes of RAM, or
no? It's the decent Pi 5, and part of the point is that you're buying the actual kit, right? So it's got the case, and you got to get an M.2 adapter, throw that in, throw in an M.2 drive. So
how much does
you're
that cost?
rounding out about $200.
Okay,
around about $200. They found two other just sort of no names: a Boss Game B100 at 170 and a GMK-Tech Nuckbox G2 for 180. And well, you know what? The two that are based on the Intel processor N100, because remember we rebranded Celeron and Atom to Intel processor.
Okay, yeah.
So you got 4 E-cores, and away it goes. So the one thing they wanted to test was that the Boss Game is DDR4, the GMK Tech is DDR5. It makes essentially no difference, but then again, it changed the price by $10. And oddly enough, those two no-name kits were better off overall than the Raspberry Pi, the 5.
Well,
the thing is,
in the kind of testing they were doing, they were trying to force Windows testing here and running Geekbench.
These things
But
came.
Linux.
They did. They did Linux. But the thing is, both of those no-names, one shipped with Windows 11 and one was shipped with Windows 11 Pro. So essentially you're getting a Windows key for free along with the hardware, which was amazing. I don't know that Microsoft is going to send them email in a month or two saying, oh, by the way, this is not technically a real license.
It's amazing how many cheap mini PCs come with Windows licenses, and the total investment
for the price of a Windows license. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of configuration that you're going to need to do and playing around to get stuff going. Ours did test Linux, and it did work. Again, mixed results, but if you fudge along with it long enough, they will work. So yeah, if you want to spend a whole bunch of time, but not much money, getting things together, then yeah, you might actually be better off going with the no-name N100 based than the Pi.
I have not had any experience with the Pi.
I honestly thought it would be the other way.
Me too. Really?
Oh, I've got a
not
Pi
the way
4.
that Andrew Cunningham tested it for our second cut. No, that's not. I don't think the Pi shines when you're trying to make it into a desktop replacement. Get the mini PC from Amazon and then wipe it. I don't care if it came with a free fake Windows license. Wipe it, put Linux on it.
Oh, hell yeah.
And the overhead with Windows on those mini PC processors is too much. Every single time I did like a ECS lever review, when I wiped the drive and put Ubuntu on it instead, it was always snappier, just a better experience, better video playback on YouTube, better productivity.
And the motherboard rootkit wasn't compatible with the operating system anymore either.
Who knows? Yeah, it's already time for Security Corner, or in Security Corner. Our first story, D-Link. No. Got an old D-Link NAS device? Dump it, just like D-Link has. Okay, so the Share Center, that's the latest casualty of, let's see, DNS 340L.
There's 4.
Okay.
Now, to be fair, the most recent one actually hit end of service 2 years ago. But
that's not that old. Come now.
It's not that old. And it's freaking network attached storage. It's
if you invest in a NAS, I don't really think that should be something that's considered disposable.
It's an appliance. Right. It's an appliance. It's like a toaster. They run for years in a closet, ignored.
Is it connected like a toaster? Well, actually, yeah, it is like a toaster.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, toasters nowadays are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, you got 4 models that all have a 9.8 severity bug on them. They all have a hard-coded user, which doesn't actually have a password, and elevated privileges. And everyone knows this.
Yeah.
Hard-coded. That is great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's brilliant. And so D-Link has essentially said, well, you know what? We've already said these are end of service. We ain't going to patch these. You should come on over to our store and buy the newest version of our NAS.
Yeah.
Which,
by the way, this is an RCE exploit. By the way, remote code.
Yeah.
So own it.
Get the script with really that credential.
Drop it and drop it like it's hot.
You. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to buy D-Link, but you might want to buy a new one.
You know, I like D-Link for the most part too.
Yeah, it was a bit of a D move.
Yeah.
They made a lot of good quality stuff for a long time.
They did.
I know.
I really enjoyed their
shit.
networking stuff from the early 2000s. They had good wireless, good support.
They had this
Then,
series
yeah,
of
it just
routers
kinda-
called like gaming routers that were actually pretty
Yeah,
good
that
pieces
was
of
Was it
hardware.
the Nighthawk?
Good. I've got one downstairs that.
Oh, you don't like it?
No, that Nighthawks were Netgear.
Oh, Netgear. Okay.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think they were.
All right, whatever. D-Link.
I have one.
Anyway,
Okay.
But much like Boeing, they used to be great, and now, well, you're taking your life in your hands.
You bunt the fodder.
Topical.
Mhm.
It's topical.
It is.
All right. Hey, when we get to podcast 787, I think the thing's just going to fall apart, like fly apart in the air. It'll be the last.
Well, there is
podcast.
at least one door in this house that's ready to fall off.
The doors are going to frickin' fly off of it.
Okay. Let's move to the next news story. Our next news story, sticking with the register here, got an unpatched LG smart television. It could be watching you back. What? Okay, I have an LG TV.
And by that, we don't mean LG is watching you, because you know that they're doing that.
Well, it doesn't have a
weirdos
camera,
that
I
are
don't
doing it.
think. I guess it could be on there somewhere.
Sebastian, do you remember those? Do you remember that low scoring 9 point, or was it 8.9 or whatever we had before?
Okay.
These had a very decent 9.1 severity rating as well.
Okay.
Privilege escalation, remote code, security pin override. So if you're plugging your LG TV into the internet, or just allowing unscrupulous individuals into your house and letting them roam your network for free, they could own your TV, leave a little secret behind on that television, and own you remotely after that. They can traverse your network. This is definitely a cry out for making sure that you create some nice VLANs inside your home space and segment your network. So get grown up about your networking. That's all.
I don't
Public service
wanna.
announcement. Oh, and patch your TV, by the way. I can't believe you have to say that phrase, but patch your TV. Sebastian, I know you don't plug yours in. You're a Luddite about your television. So.
I don't have it connected to the internet, if that's what you mean.
I do.
It's a dumb panel to me. That's all it is. It knows.
As it should be.
In my
so firmware updates are not a thing on that machine.
They are. You can update the firmware, but you have to plug it into the internet. Sebastian.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the same way with my
All kinds of
LG
interesting
TV.
tools were updated on mine to do better OLED care and responsiveness. And
I noticed that as
things like
well.
that. Yeah.
Yep. There's like OLED care options in the menu that I'd never seen before.
Yeah. Funny how that updates.
Yeah.
Next, beware of a Notepad++ clone, or not. Maybe it's fine.
What kind of is? It's essentially a fan site that's been around for a while, but for whatever reason, Google search started putting it up at least as high as the actual Notepad++ site. And Notepad++ obviously got a little bit upset about that and took a look at and said, oh, well, there's an advertisement header on the top, which could possibly hold some evil code. And, well, it's nice that every single download link that they have leads directly to notepad++.org. They could change that at some point in the future. But the internet, being the internet, jumped on this, and this guy, whoever he is, was getting DDoS attacks. They essentially took the site completely down. And really all it was a landing page with links directly to the proper downloads, not hosted by him, but hosted by Notepad++, and a bunch of tutorial videos on how to use it beyond just, well, this is slightly better than WordPad. So it just sort of exploded out of nowhere. I wanted to make a comment on it because it was just, there are bad things out there on the net, but not everything is. I think Google just sort of screwed up their algorithm a little bit, and it leaped up onto the front page below or above notepad++.org. And they got, understandably upset about it, but I think it got overblown ridiculously, and I'd like to point that out. Also, use Notepad++.
Also true. This is one of those security scares that merely was just a scare this time. No actual damage was done to anyone except the person who hosted the website, who was just trying to do something nice. That's what you
This
get
was
for
a
trying to
little
do something
amuse
nice.
bouche. Yeah, it was
I
a
don't know
little
what you
amuse
just
bouche
said.
before the horrific thing that happens. It happens in between courses of meals, something to clear out your palate. Before we
that's what
serve you something completely
this story,
utterly disgusting.
That's what this story was. The next story.
Yes,
that.
the next
Take it
story
away.
from Bleeping Computer. Critical rust flaw enables Windows command injection attacks.
Jeremy, what did they score this one again? I forget.
The judges seem to be giving a 10. I see a 10. Oh, that's 3 10s.
A perfect 10. Oh my goodness. Do describe this one.
Oh, this is...
The Russian judge only gave it an 8.9.
No, it looked like it a 0.1, but they just had it upside down. Yeah, but I was going to make that joke too. No, this is, Rust, for some people, was going to be the savior. It was going to be the secure way to run shells and various things that invoke libraries with various batch files that invoke libraries that would, save you. And it would be.
Are you going to do your Ewan McGregor impression now?
I was thinking about it.
It's very memory safe. Very memory safe here, Jeremy. Go ahead.
I don't know. Because I'm still trying to remember what this was, because I tried to erase it from my memory. Not the Ewan McGregor thing, just Rust.
Hello there.
Hello there.
You are the chosen one.
Oh, okay.
You were... Yeah, Rust was essentially sent in to destroy memory corruption, not join it.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Because I wanted to do you were set to make to your give balance, and then it just sort of fell apart in my head. He was sent to make balance for the exactly. That's why I abandoned it.
Bring balance.
Bring balance. Yes.
Bring balance. Thank you. See,
Dude,
I know
he did.
Standard library was to bring balance.
Why are they so dumb in that movie? He obviously did bring balance to the Force, because there was all these thousands of Jedi Knights and only 2 Sith. And then he brought balance to the Force by killing almost all the Jedi. So then there was 2 Jedi.
And they got upset about it.
And 2 Sith. And it's fair. It's balance.
Because balance means my side.
Right.
Balance
fair
is my
and balance.
Side wins, not
fair and balance.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yes.
Yoda didn't weigh very much. So
Anakin turned the New Republic into a no-spin zone, is what he did. He cut through the bullshit. All right, that's enough for that. Continue, please, about whatever this was.
So you really need to escape your commands properly, because if you don't, you get bat bud butt, which is what they have called this thing. And it will just sort of unexpectedly execute patch files. So essentially, first off, move every single batch file you've got into a directory not included in your path environmental variable, which is, of course, where you tend to store those bat files because they're kind of handy.
You want to execute them.
Yeah, and so they've listed a variety of patches for some. Java, they're refusing to fix. It's Java. PHP and Node.js, they're still working on. Ruby and Python, there's documentation available to do it, but you ain't going to patch it yourself. Essentially, only Haskell has been patched. But yeah, they're just managing to escape what you're running and then just spawn as many processes as they like. And it's just truly horrific. And then there's this, I don't fully understand, because I was living in an Intune nightmare today in PowerShell, but there's some sort of a command on Windows with like a raw argument that you can just literally escape the logic completely and be off and do whatever you need to.
But allows you to pass arguments. Allows you to pass arguments to the batch file, but it allows you to essentially subvert the argument parsing and then kind of pass arbitrary commands to the highest level execution process, which is owned by the user or owned by the super user or owned by admin. And once you can subvert the argument parsing, you're then allowed to pass in arbitrary anythings to be run at elevated privileges. So it is it's remote, it's local, it's definitely violatable. Is that a good word?
It's a
Exploitable is
smorgasbord.
It is. You can, yeah, it's a bad one. 10 out of 10. Would give.
Let's move to gaming quick hits. And we're going to start off by talking about Star Wars Outlaws again. And this article heading is Scoundrels Only, No Nerf Herders. I assume that means that you cannot play as a rebel. You have to be an outlaw, hence the name.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, you're taking advantage of those idiots of the rebellion who are keeping the Imperials really busy to do crime. It's billed as the first open world Star Wars game. We shall see how true that is. And I really do hope that it's a little more mouse and keyboard friendly than Jedi Outcast was. It could be. And then again, maybe it won't be. The
just embrace the dark side. Embrace the controller lifestyle.
I'm tempted to learn how to do it. I still have a nice spiffy Logitech one. But yeah, this may be a Jedi free zone because there is absolutely no Jedi involved in the making of this release trailer. But it is pretty. You'll also notice that it contains very little to no gameplay.
Yeah.
Or if it does, it's the old... you remember how they used to do launch trailers and, oh yeah, check us out at CES or PAX, and you went and you played and the gameplay looked absolutely nothing like what they rendered for you? Yeah, well, I think this might be it.
The bar doesn't look very high based on what I'm seeing here. This looks like it's not like the absolute latest.
Look, there's stealth.
I mean, there's been a lot of noise about this on social media because, it's going to look outstanding with DLSS 3 plus frame generation, right? Right, Josh?
Yeah, it's
Apparently-
going to be stunning.
Apparently there are a lot of bots out there that are talking about how great this game is with DLSS 3 and it's not even out till like September. Okay. Let me bring up the next story.
That's too busy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm an outlaw, quick on the draw.
Okay.
And I couldn't afford my time to listen to you.
Speaking of outlaws, though, far more important is Intel's Software Advantage program. Kent, you were telling us about this before the show started. You can buy any qualifying Intel Core 14th Gen product and get Outlaws for free. That's a $70 value. Maybe your processor won't work in a few months, but you will have a free game to enjoy on whatever processor you end up with later on down the road.
It is not limited to, 900 series or 700 series. You can go all the way down to like a 14400 processor. And I think even maybe a 14100 was listed on there as well. And get the free game if it's a game you're planning on buying anyway.
Okay, yeah, I see that. Let's see. I could get a Intel Core i5.
14400.
Yeah, 14400. That's a affordable option. And then get a expensive board to put it in. No, there are some less expensive boards. That's not fair. Get myself a A380 graphics card. Maybe spring for the A750, just an all Intel rig. And then find an old Intel SSD too and put it in there. Don't make power supplies though. I guess you can't have a true...
If you really wanted, you'd have to go back to, what was it, Ivy Bridge, and get an Intel motherboard.
Did they make one for Haswell? I think you're right. I think maybe the Ivy Bridge was the end. Because they did Ivy Bridge E was X99, right? Or was it X79? It might have been
X79. Haswell E was X99.
Okay. So I think X79 was the end of those Intel gaming boards with the alien logo on them. Those were the days. And no, there's no Intel case either for Root 2M. Most people, I feel like they just disregard the whole case and power supply thing completely. They talk about, you could build a computer for way less than that. Like, but without a case, because I already have a case and I already have a power supply and I've already got storage and I've already got a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse. But I mean, I could build a system for way less than overpriced pre-built because I'm only buying a motherboard and a video card. But anyway, cancel all that. Just delete everything I just said.
Yeah, it wasn't wrong.
No, a humble thing. Let's see. Loading up.
Brett picked this one for Josh. I know
Of course, it's Brett. It's
did.
Humble Bundle, so it has to be Brett.
I did.
Catch my drift, Brett.
Yes.
Off-road and rally racing game bundle.
Witte.
To
Josh,
drift
what do you
is to
think?
live. Sorry.
So the Art of Rally was free on Epic a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
WRC 10 is like one of the last gasps of that group who did a really, truly subpar physics for... there are a lot of funny videos out there.
about
Mudrunner.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All the WRC until this latest one is not great. But yeah, Mudrunner's a lot of fun. That's... people really seem to enjoy that one. But, so Art of Rally, Mudrunner, good gouge. Good gouge.
What about inertial drift, or do you stay away from that?
I haven't done any drifting.
Well, if you've got a steering wheel not doing anything.
Mudrunner and Snow Runner and stuff like that is like exploration porn for people who just like, doing large 4x4s through forests and unpaved roads. It's good stuff.
Inertial drift. There's no coincidence about the similarity between initial D and inertial drift.
That is correct.
It's very interesting to me that this is published by P-Cube because aren't they a visual novel company? Yeah, they do like...
Oh my,
anime.
they certainly do look like it.
Yeah, I've never heard of them doing a racing game. They have like Konosuba, and I know they did
Only
like
racy games?
Yeah,
I saw
like they
what you
did the
did there.
Steins Gate visual novel and stuff like that. Or at least they publish it. But apparently they have a drift racing game too. So, all right, Kent, are you ready to talk about the glory that is a QD-OLED monitor?
Yes, I am. I didn't even know this was up yet.
I published it today, thinking, what,
Okay.
podcast tonight. Should probably publish this. So I worked on it earlier. I created this thumbnail image by just taking a still from the video clip, which I embedded in the review. So if you go to PCPer.com and read the Alienware AW3225QF 4K QD-OLED monitor review. This is not a QLED. This is a QD-OLED. It's very important that you know
Easy
that.
for you to say.
Yeah, it's we've talked a lot recently about OLED monitors, especially between Josh and myself. And it's a pretty lengthy article. I go into a little of the recent history of the OLEDs, some differences between the WOLED and the QD-OLED, some of the problems that have changed up to the third gen QD-OLEDs.
Like sub-pixel structure. I mean,
The subpixel
that's the
structure.
stuff that people want to read. At least I love this stuff.
It is an important feature, though, because it really takes care of the text fringing
Yes.
problems that people were having on first and second gen QD-OLEDs. But really, the long and short of it is, and I believe I say this in my summary, I still tell people that of all the different things I've done to computers over the years, the biggest improvement in performance was the first time I put an SSD in a system. And it was like, wow, Windows is done booting, and I've just barely sat down. It's that type of improvement. It's like just amazing. Just turning it on the first time, setting it to HDR, and it's just like, this is incredible. my wife, she games some, but she's not into the technical aspects of all this. And she was sort of like, I don't really understand what you mean by an OLED. I don't know what's important about it. And so I showed her, and she was immediately like, oh, wow. The difference is night and day from any other panel type I've ever seen.
The dark portions don't glow.
The dark portions don't glow, and especially at this kind of pixel density, we're talking 140 pixels per inch on this particular panel. The sharpness is unbelievable. It's the realism in some of these videos when you're actually looking at them in person. It was just like sometimes you would see something and it's like you can't, but you feel like I could just reach in there and touch what it's showing me on the screen. It's that realistic. That being said, this monitor retails for $11.99. Now, this is the curved panel model. I personally have a preference for curved panels, and also, as I mentioned in the article, due to my prescription, flat panels actually look convex to me. Curved panels with a very slight curve actually look flat. So I'm sort of stuck.
Have you been to the optometrist lately?
Yes. So I'm kind of stuck using a curved panel. But like I said, I kind of like it beyond that. You can also get this same QD-OLED panel from other manufacturers in a flat screen. In fact, MSI has this exact same panel, slightly different firmware and controls to it, but the specs are all the same except it's flat, and it retails at $949.
But does it have the Alien FX lighting that this one has?
It has different. I actually don't think that particular model has any lighting on it, and the lighting.
How was it? Did it increase your immersion?
No. It's behind the panel. It gives a nice glow on the wall behind my monitor, and that's about it.
Wait, it's just these two letters in the alien head? Is that all that light
yes.
up? There's no ring around here or anything?
There's no ring. That is actually venting. Okay. And the heatsink on this panel is actually actively cooled. So there is a fan.
Oh.
I cannot hear the fan, period. I have never heard it during usage. There is testing. You can test different features on the software via the firmware via the interface, and you can force the fan to high speed to test it. And I can actually hear the fan barely when I force that high speed.
Now, this is, of course, when you're wearing one of your fancy pairs of Beyerdynamic headphones and you have your...
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I cannot hear it under normal usage at all.
Okay. So it's not like a early gen plasma in high altitude situation. Okay.
No. And Dell has been very supportive of this panel. I've had it just over a month. There have been 3 firmware updates that they've addressed little things. The biggest is when the panel originally came out, there were people that were having problems with HDR content. They were blaming the panel, and what it actually turns out to be is, shockingly, it's a Windows issue, because this panel is the only one that is Dolby Vision certified. And Windows can't do Dolby Vision, and it can't tell the difference between regular HDR and Dolby Vision. And so
even if
it was trying to render regular HDR10 as Dolby Vision. And so you got these very strange colors and contrast changes. The biggest thing that Dell has done is they've just given you the ability in the interface to simply turn Dolby Vision off, and it works perfectly fine there. There's very little Dolby Vision content out there on PC anyway, especially in gaming. To my knowledge, there's no Dolby Vision. But you can just simply go in and turn it back on if you happen to be using something that does have Dolby Vision content. Other than that, the experience has been just amazing. We've got an IPS panel television downstairs, and I can't even stand to watch anything on it anymore.
That?
Oh no! Oh no!
It's like
much glow.
Oh.
And the contrast. It's like everything just looks flat and gray.
Yeah.
In comparison.
Hey, how's burn-in? Is there a lot of burn-in on your monitor, Kent?
No.
OLED means
no.
Hey, by the way, can I just for a second, have they forgotten about the whole CRT era?
Oh,
We
yeah.
used to use a monitor technology as
Sorry,
PC
did you
users.
say
Flying
did you miss
toaster.
That could
Did you miss
potentially
plasma? I thought you
burn
said
in.
plasma there.
We could people
No, we'll
used
go
to
to
use
Josh for
CRTs
plasma.
that burned in if you left a static image on them for too long. So we had this thing called a screensaver, and it saved your screen from burn-in. And now we're moving back to like an emissive type display technology, and people are getting very worried because it might burn in. Well, right, it might burn in if you leave a static image on the screen all the time. But if
Sebastian,
Bring back 3D tubes.
you might not
Bring back
have the
3D
update.
tubes.
You might not have the update to your LG television that moves static images a few pixels around.
where have you been
that.
for the last 8 years of me talking about pixel shift on my B6 OLED TV, which I've had enabled since day one, and
Just making sure.
I don't know why people don't just leave it on. I know there's some people who are like, it's not the full panel resolution if you have that turned on because you're losing pixels on the left and right side.
No,
I don't care because it's kept me from getting burn in for 8 years now.
Exactly.
No.
Realism, people.
All right. Sorry, Ken.
And I mentioned in the article that the burn-in is not just like you said. Burn-in is not new. This monitor, and actually, this was the only one when these were announced at CES. This panel was actually shipping day one of CES. But initially, this was the only one that had a 3-year warranty that covered pixel burn-in. The others have actually changed their warranty. Now all the models using this panel have at least a 3-year warranty that covers burn-in. Beyond that, there's a lot of things you can do to mitigate the risk of burn-in, and I go into those pretty in depth. The steps I took to do that on this panel. I set a slideshow for my background. I got a program that allows me to hide all my desktop icons with a simple double click. It's called Fences. I actually really like that program actually as well. But
That's Stardock, isn't it?
It is Stardock, yes.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so built-in Mac
The
OS.
sins of the Solar
very,
Empire
very,
people.
very, very Mac OS like.
But yeah, so yes, burn-in is a risk, but there's also management systems built into the firmware to protect against it. Again, there is a 3-year warranty, and so you're going to at least get 3 years. I have a feeling that I will get quite a bit more before burn-in becomes an issue. Just being careful. And you know what? I lived through CRTs. I remember what that was like, and I don't mind doing it again to get the kind of experience out of a panel that something like this offers. It truly is.
You had a CRT.
What's that?
The experience you had when you had a CRT.
Well, no, the experience of this panel it's game changing.
Literally,
I like
when
it.
you play games on it.
Literally, I've gone back and downloaded old games that I haven't played in ages just to see what they look like.
Wait, I thought that was the promise of ray tracing. I thought RCX Remix and just experience the difference of better shadows and directional lighting effects and things. Sorry.
But have you done that on an OLED yet?
Exactly.
Maybe you need to revisit them again.
Was this a review unit from Alienware?
No.
No, this glowing praise is not because they gave him a $1,100 monitor. He bought this himself. I actually put that in the review disclosures section.
I haven't read that part yet.
Yes, and also
by the reviewer. It was not a review sample.
Yeah. And also, the company I work for has a employee benefit program with Bell, so
I discount.
Yes, so,
nice.
But regardless, it just.
I got a Dell discount too, but
it just blows you away. It really is. I mean, I went to this Samsung 49-inch OLED, and it's awesome. I mean, I downloaded one of the native screen backgrounds in HDR, and I put it on there, and you just stare at it for a while because it just looks amazing. And it's got a 240 hertz refresh. I mean, well, not refresh, but you know what I mean. It can handle up to 240 frames a second because OLED doesn't anyway. But that's going to the weeds. Regardless, all the games just look fantastic, and the HDR is. Thank you.
We can see a lot more of your room than we ever used to. The glow coming off of that monitor it's
pretty bright. Yeah, I mean, I've turned the brightness down quite a bit. But it's no. I mean, after a while, you stare at it. It's like, damn, that contrast is harsh on the eyes because it's so good. You get a dark scene, and it's like revelatory of what you've been missing on IPS and VA stuff. So, yeah, I don't have any issues with text on mine. That it seems like a solved issue. It came with a remote. This is essentially kind of a TV. It can't connect to the internet, and I did update the firmware, Sebastian. You can do all kinds of things. The only problem that I have with this one, and I don't know if you have this issue, but it defaults to lower hertz rates, no HDR, no VRR when it turns off. So when it turns on and you've got those things enabled with Windows, it takes about 15 seconds to get up to where you actually can see a screen and do something, because it will flash in and out and adjust all those settings and get you to where, the default, Windows setup that you set up. You could default to, 60 hertz or 120 hertz or whatever you want to do with this panel. But I have it at 240 with HDR and VRR. And so it takes a good 15 seconds from when you either start up and hit, where you get the start screen where you log in or whatever, or if it goes to sleep and you wake it up, it takes a while to give you something to look at. And that's not a great thing with this one, but if you can handle an extra 15 seconds, the other benefits are self-explanatory.
I don't have
very much
that
Windows.
That big of an issue with this panel. It does take a little longer to boot up and wake up when I start up than the IPS did. That just pretty much popped up instantly. But yeah, it's not. It takes a little longer, but it's not terrible.
I wouldn't change it. Doesn't bother me that much. So yeah.
What is the CMT thing? CSTM?
Well, I mean, we're running late, but Drop sent me a keyboard, and I was gonna show off the animation of the RGBs because I mean, I'm not gonna take a video for the review.
Okay.
But we can
right,
always
let's
do it next week.
Real quick, while we're still talking about hardware, Jeremy has a very flashy new keyboard.
Oh my!
Indeed.
Oh,
Did it come with that coiled up cord like that?
Well, Drop will sell you to you along with the keyboard. But yeah, it is a fancy one that actually has an extender on it with what it looks like a PS2 connector between the two of them.
It does.
But,
that coil reminds me of
it is quite nice.
Is that a 65% keyboard?
Yes, looks like a 65.
It's the name, CSTM 65. It is a home defense keyboard. That is a solid chunk of something under this thing. I'm going to weigh it, but it's upwards of 5 pounds. It's seriously solid.
And it comes with it comes with a PC Junior cable, I see. Yeah. And by the way, the frame on that is chunky. I just want to add.
Oh, you know what's amusing about this frame?
Yeah.
And I'll have to unplug it.
All right. What are you doing?
Magnetically connected. You can just pop this off and replace it with another one if you so desire.
Because,
that's normal behavior for a person.
Yeah. I remain impressed. Okay.
Do they have it in beige? Because that would be my color preference.
They have it in white, black, laser purple, Skidata orange, and Shania green, which is actually what I asked for, but I didn't get.
Laser purple?
The green would be the same as the cable. The cable was actually the green.
Oh, okay.
And you can get it with boring old Gateron Brown Pro 3.0s, or you're very welcome, linear Gateron Yellow KS3s, which I actually like a lot more.
You have
linear
those
keys
whole time, and you haven't heard me, right?
Are much more podcast friendly. That's all I have to say.
linears.
I am typing like a madman right now.
It's so much quieter.
You might hear a little
Nobody
bit
wants
of something,
that Josh Walrath keyboard sound.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Hey, speaking of Josh.
Yes.
Speaking of Josh.
Do it.
Let's do Picks of the Week, and Josh can get us started.
Sure.
Yes, please.
It's a good idea. So anyway, TP-Link has a very inexpensive 2.5 gigabit Ethernet card. I'm actually using this in my machine right now. I've had no real issues with it. Seems solidly built. It's simple, and it just works. And if you want a 2.5 gigabit network and your motherboard doesn't support it natively, this is a very, very easy option to get those increased networking speeds for less than $30 before tax.
Is there a Linux driver for this one, Josh?
Yes, there is.
It's important. It's important to me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it says right there, Linux.
Thank you. Jeremy, your pick this week.
I changed my mind. I was going to go with another CPU pick because it is dirt cheap, both down in the States and up here in Canada. But then I remembered, you know what's free on Epic right now? Thief.
The old Thief.
The remake.
Oh my gosh.
The remake.
It's not the old one. So what, 2018?
Well, it's still kind of old, but yeah, it's the remake of the original. This was so much fun. I'm going to play it again.
This is classic.
Well, doesn't it have the AMD audio built into it?
Yes.
Yes,
it does.
True audio.
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah.
This came out.
Yeah, it's
Jeremy,
about 10 years old or so.
This is the same crew that did System Shock.
Yes, it is. And they did a really good job because every once in a while there is a beloved game from your childhood that gets remade and they destroy it. They make it horrific. They make it horrible. No. This one, actually, Eidos Montreal did a really good job in remaking this. If you've never played Thief before, That's why I got to
grab this
replay
one.
it, because there's so many classic lines that the brain is fuzzed out over the years. So yeah, it's fun. This is the way a stealth game is supposed to be, because if you do kind of screw up with a stealth, it's not the end of the game. You can still recover as long as you've got a little bit of a backup plan. But if you don't screw up, it's a lot of fun.
Well, if you're
Josh
watching
loved
this
one too
live,
back in the day.
you have until 11 a.m. to get it.
Get on it. You should be
Do
watching.
you know the name of the original engine for Thief?
Mm,
Oh my gosh, I knew
that was
this
a
at one
long
point.
time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
It's the Omen engine.
Brought to you by HP.
No. It was before that, and then they used it in System Shock 2.
Nice.
Yeah, System
Looking
Shock
Glass.
2 used the same engine. Yeah.
Brett, your pick.
Yes, Outer Wilds is free too if you want to play that. They're Borderlands. Or no. Oh yeah, Outer Wilds.
Sebastian, for this week, I'm going to stick with kind of the audio theme. Now, last week I took your advice. Speedwoofer 10E from RSL. I ordered one. It's not here yet, surprisingly. I know it's a slow ship, but I stuck with the audio format, and I'm like thinking, where can I go with this? So I purveyed Woot, and for the next like almost a couple of hours, this is a reasonably good deal. This is a Pioneer Elite 7.2 channel network AV receiver for $500. Normally, this is $700 or $800 retail. So $500 is pretty good. This is brand new. I don't believe it's refurb. It's 100 watts. It does 8K HDMI switching. So basically, it's a pretty high-end Pioneer Elite receiver. If you're looking for one, now's the time to jump. This is a pretty good deal if you're willing to get into a Pioneer. Again, great switching capabilities with this. Reasonable amount of power. $500.
What do you mean willing to get into a Pioneer? The Pioneer Elite stuff is pretty high end.
Not everybody appreciates Pioneer. Some people have kind of sworn off it. They want a little bit more.
Elite is different though. Elite is good. If you go into a high end audio
but some
showroom,
people
they'll have Elites.
Are like a Denon or something like that. I don't know. Some people have a thing with Pioneer. I've noticed, but
so you're saying though that the Speedwoofer is misnamed.
It arrival is slow.
The one thing about Speedwoofer is RSL is direct. RSL makes the speakers, and they're very transparent about the process. About like the stuff comes over on a ship, and they're waiting on shipments from their supplier in China. That's why they cost like a quarter or less what the JL version.
I wasn't kidding when I said I saw low stock and I'm like, oh my God, I got to order it now. Boom. In my cart, done. That was like a week ago.
Damn, that's the power of money, Brett. It's incredible what you can do with it.
It is.
If you could just type in that credit card number.
You mean credit, I think is what you meant to
that's
say.
What that's I'm an American. I assume that's what everybody.
Money, fake money.
It's all pretend.
Fake money. I mean, it's not real. It's not real. It hasn't cost me a thing. It's like free so far.
It's like that flip phone I got a few weeks ago. It's I put it on a credit card. It's fine. All right.
So I was wrong. The engine was the dark engine.
It's the dark engine.
Mad Hatter 2561. Dark engine was that. Omen was MDK and MDK2.
And literally that was it. I was looking it up as you were taught, and then although I miss those games too. Those were fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Who's next? Kent, your pick.
My pick. I'll have to take this out. My pick is some very purple and gold earbuds. IEMs, technically. They're not earbuds.
Right.
These are by a Chinese manufacturer called Blon or Belon or
Linsol.
but not Elon.
Oh. Okay.
These are a collaboration with Z Reviews. These are $49. They are right now, you can get them 20% off. They are very purple and gold, but boy, do they bring the bass. These are not an audiophile IM. These are very fun. They're kind of V-shaped, but the mid-range doesn't really suffer. But boy, do they bring the bass. Just about unlike any other kind of IEM I've heard. But it's nice quality, tight, controlled bass. And, they're cheap. So
yeah. How easy to drive are they?
They're 32 ohm, and they drive pretty easily off of anything I've got.
Yeah, 106 dB sensitivity. These are not bad. You know that,
Yep.
Hey, Brett, your Lightning to 3.5 adapter could probably handle this.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You could just bring the bass to those iTunes.
My understanding is once I experience the Speedwoofer 10E, nothing else will ever be the same.
Well, then nothing else will
Well,
matter.
I mean, the 12-inch Speedwoofer would probably be better, but I mean, nothing else in the $300 range for a 10-inch sub will ever be the same.
My understanding that I was going to get Tuco tight bass with the 10E. Okay,
You are. It's gonna blow your mind, man. Especially if you put it really close to where you sit.
Mm-hmm. So you get these IMs, put them in, and then sit on the subwoofer.
If you have a receiver that lets you do like headphones without it shutting off the speaker, so you're listening, defeating the purpose, of course, of listening privately, but
of course,
you're listening to your thunderous bass and your IEMs while the house is shaking because you've got the subwoofer turned up so loud and everybody's trying to sleep.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a personal problem.
Tactile sound.
That'll do it for the PC Perspective podcast for this week, and we hope you return to find out what we're up to next week at episode 769. We'll have so much more for you. More news, more content.
More distractions.
Yeah. More reviews.
Yeah.
Maybe Josh will have an actual tornado next week. We don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll do
Are you wishing that on him or just saying?
If you saw his hot dog of the week, that looked like a bacon tornado went through that.
It is. That's a gut busting tornado, actually.
Yeah.
Tune in tomorrow to find out.